The S25 is the same as the S24. Well, not exactly. See, I've been meaning to do a video on the S25 for a while now. You know how Apple likes to drop a new phone. It looks the same as the old one, hardly any small design changes, just one small flagship added to their new phones. Samsung is basically doing the same thing, at least design-wise, because the S24 had some massive internal changes across the board compared to the S23, and it was the only phone that was widely accepted as phone of the year. Then we've got the S25. The bezels on the S25 are significantly thinner than its previous counterpart, giving it a 6.9-inch screen instead of 6.8 inches. It just being overall thinner makes this 14 grams lighter than the S24 Ultra, even with the S Pen installed. The corners are just more rounded off, and it has an overall boxier look. I also think the rings around the lenses are a tiny bit thicker, but I could be wrong. Speaking of, if you look closely at these rings around the camera lenses, instead of just being fused into the phone itself, they seem to be popping off a little bit, so you'll have these dust exposed crevices in your camera lenses. Not really a fan of this, but at the end of the day, who cares? By the way, all displays are built with a standard 120Hz refresh rate, so that's always great. The S25 Ultra is also built with titanium, and it uses Corning's new Gorilla Glass armor too, so it's extremely durable, carrying an IP68 durability rating, which seems to be the new standard for ingress protection for new flagship phones. As we know, the OnePlus 13 peaked at an IP69 rating, so both of these phones have to be crazy strong, right? Of course, the S25 comes with a new color palette to help differentiate between the S24 and S25 because there isn't much difference between their looks. S25 has the same camera orientation, they're very close in size, and if I'm being honest, most of the camera changes were internalized, except for the 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. However, most of the camera specs are still the same. There's the same battery amount, buttons are still in the same place, and the only visible difference is the rounded corners on the S25 and the thicker camera rings. Now, as we dive deeper into the hardware, let's take a look at the new Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. Looking at the Snapdragon itself, everything has made big improvements, from the AI Tensor Accelerator for 5G connectivity and multimodal generative AI processing. This is the force that is responsible for a lot of new features, with improved graphics performance, AI performance, real-time ray tracing, and Vulkan optimization. Gameplay on the S25 is far better than anyone could imagine. It even modified the Pro Visual Engine on the S25, and it's contributed to the features of One UI 7. Samsung has their glorified dynamic island feature called the Now Bar, strictly accessible in your lock screen for quicker accessibility, and it does all of the same thing that OnePlus's Live Alert capsules and Apple's Dynamic Island by displaying activity on the screen and making it easy to access. Then there's Now Brief, which is basically an AI overview of what's to come based on your personal data. So if you have an important event scheduled for the day, you're interested about the weather, or you've been keeping track of your health insights when you're about to go to sleep, it notifies you about everything all at once. Speaking of personal data, Samsung introduced their personal data engine, and it makes on-device AI a lot smarter and more personalized. How it was explained was they used a knowledge graph, programmed to replicate human-like reasoning and memory, allowing the phone to better understand data from apps working on the back end. So it's basically going into that app, retrieving relevant information that aligns with any personal request. But since the apps and other phone services work independently from each other, the amount of accessible background knowledge is limited, and they call this knowledge-based AI. AI and non-AI based features aren't stored into the cloud anymore, and they're encrypted inside of a Knox Vault. Now let's get into the real meat and potatoes of Samsung's new phone. Galaxy AI has a ton of new AI features, and Gemini, the AI assistant that's been part of the Pixel phones, now replaces Bixby as Samsung's default on-device assistant for the S25 series. Now, whenever you press the side button on the S25, you'll get greeted by Gemini. Do you know what this means? Improved circle to search and Gemini Live. I know, you can thank Samsung later. And that also means Gemini is now compatible with Samsung apps, meaning you can directly access or manipulate features on your S25 using Gemini. Gemini can also identify URLs, phone numbers, and email addresses if you use Circle to Search. But wait, it gets better. All newly purchased S25 devices come with Gemini Advanced for 6 months and 2 terabytes of cloud storage with no additional cost. Now, like I said before, there are a whole bunch of new features with Galaxy AI. There's AI Select, which allows you to search or access more advanced subjects, and based on whatever it is that you select, this feature consults other AI features like writing assist and circle to search. If you're selecting an entire body of text with AI Select, it summons writing assist and allows you to take control, so you can finally use writing assist on other apps and browsers. But Galaxy AI's new improvements don't stop there. If you let Galaxy AI know your eyes are strained from a long day of looking at your screen, the Eye Comfort Shield feature automatically adjusts the screen's brightness and temperature, making it easier on the eyes and really cutting down on that blue light. Now, if I'm being honest, this whole video I didn't want to rope Apple into this, but there are just so many elements that feel very familiar with iOS. Like I said, you have the Now bar, which is like the dynamic island. You can customize, resize, and change your entire widget layout like on iOS. You can customize your lock screen like on iOS, and even the phone cosmetics. The rounded corners, which is honestly a reach. Rounded corners doesn't automatically make it iPhone-esque, but I just can't help but kind of feel that way. But it's not just that, it's also the home layout. Swiping down on the left side of your screen to pull down notifications, and swiping down on the right to pull down the control center, and even shuffling through your app windows is extremely reminiscent of iOS. I feel like what they're trying to conceive is the true iPhone killer. Now, whether you should buy it, it's really up to you. Design's a bit better in my opinion than the S24. It's definitely more durable than the S24 Ultra, and you have better on-device performance with the new chip. Even if you don't really notice, just know it's there. But then it's likely you're going to get the same software upgrades on the S24 series phones, especially when taking into account the 7 years of software updates. In case you weren't paying attention, most of the updates with this phone are software related. Even if you don't get Gemini on your S24, which most likely you won't, you can still do a lot of the other things that these S25 series phones can do. This feels more reminiscent of those S updates. This is more like an S24S or something like that. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want more videos like these covering the latest Apple or Samsung phone, please subscribe. See ya.